Senator Henry.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, I stand to provide a perspective on this motion because it seeks to extend the period for the stimulus, the tourism stimulus package to facilitate persons participating in the business opportunities that this tourism business, I think, brings to our shores. And Madam President, it involves, I'm sure that the tourism stimulus investment includes a number of participants within the construction sector and other sectors that facilitate what would be happening, including persons submitting proposals to planning for approval and doing those regular stuff that persons do if they want to construct a hotel or get approval for a hotel. Madam President, as I speak to this, I want to reflect on this. I think there are times, Madam President, and I'm proceeding with much, trepidation and being careful, because there's nothing you could say in here today that is not being construed as being political, even when you speak and you support something that is being said, but you ask questions against it. And I find, Madam President, this does not, the opening remarks made very early of persons coming together and working together. Madam President, there's a high level of pretense in this chamber. And I do say, Madam President, persons on this side need to be able to let their nay be nay and the yea be nay, because, Madam President, the feeling is not, I'm not feeling comfortable, especially as we go about discussing this issue of this pandemic in St. Lucia, based on how the debate has taken place. But I know, Madam President, it's difficult, always difficult for the opposition to make their contribution. I have concluded this. But, Madam President, as I proceed, Madam President, with this, Madam President, there are a number of businesses associated with the tourism sector, some of whom are currently allowed to operate. I think persons involved in the construction of tourism plant, I think some what you call them, the people generating aggregates, I notice are moving aggregates across to some tourism sites or where construction activity is taking place. Madam President, some of them are asked to observe some protocols, but I also understood, Madam President, most of them, and I dare say the CPALs and CO Williams, the Renaults and them are operating to provide support. But there are some, like Aaron Siwak, who is asked not to. And I'm asking that we, as we approve those, extend the stimulus package for tourism, we are sending signals to the business sector, and we must ensure, Madam President, that everyone is treated in the same environment. We should not create a society where some people are being treated in one manner as against the other. This morning, Aaron Siwak was asked to close down, even after he satisfied everything in terms of his operations, of meeting the standards that were set by the Ministry of Health. 3 police officers came to his premises and asked him to close down. Yes, he had everything in place. The Ministry of Health visited him and everything. You understand? And of course, conveyed that to me even while I was here, to tell me that, look here, what is happening? I hear you all debating, but this thing is not working well.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Yeah.
Madam President, on a point of order, Madam President, the Honorable Senator is misleading the House. It is not the Ministry
Which one,
of
Madam
Health.
President?
It is not the Ministry of Health, Madam President, that gives the okay. It's the Ministry
Senate,
of Commerce.
Honorable Leader of
On
Government
a point of
Business.
elucidation, Madam President.
Senator Henry.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, we have authorities in terms of contributing, we subscribe to when, of course, for example, Madam President, when we dealt with COVID-19 and what declares it as a pandemic and we respond, we said WHO. There are other authorities as well that guide what we do. And of course, it's the proper thing to come here to do, to submit a piece of legislation for the tourism sector. It is the proper thing to do for us to consider it. And I understand why we need to do it. But there are other pieces of legislation, Madam President, that are also time-bound, that time-specific, that also need to be brought to this House. Madam President, legal pieces of persons who are in the courts dealing with matters, Madam President, that are time-specific. And I'm sure, Madam President, that these also need to be similarly be brought to this House so that whether we extend the period or give it the validity for it to continue, I think that is also necessary to be done. The COVID-19 has actually stopped time on us, so to speak, but there are issues that that time is running on, and I'm sure, whereas I cannot call them out, Madam President, but they too fit within the same framework of a stimulus package. And I do ask sometimes, Madam President, is there a sort of a special relationship with the tourism operatives and not the other sectors as well, because they too are important to the entire economy of St. Lucia. Madam President, I'll close on this, but just to remind us, as the leader of government business cited the children of Israel going down to the promised land, I just wanted her to remind us in this House that it was Pharaoh whose head was hard. And the persons who were speaking to Pharaoh, they were in the minority. As a matter of fact, it was just Moses and Aaron. And one characteristic that was mentioned about Moses is that he stuttered. So as we move, the minority is also important. Do not attempt to just shut us up just to proceed. The minority is important. And while we sit in minority and we try to convey, remember, as you rightly said, the children of Israel stayed a long time because the persons who advised Pharaoh were in the minority. And he had to take more than 9 plagues for him to have listened. I thank you very much.